Hello, sorry, we were cut off a bit. We'll continue. Sorry for that. This is what happens with these technologies. Sometimes they fail us, but let's continue. Is that whatever we discussed has been saved. Please bring the people back in, share again. Let us continue. We are back. I want to see if people are coming back again. Please just raise your hand. All right. Sorry, we were cut off. There was a technical problem, but we'll continue. Like I'm saying, whatever we discussed was very cardinal, and it's saved on Facebook. We'll continue from where we ended so that we finish our topic. Please, again, try and then share. Try and let the other people know who are listening to that we are back. They can come back. Share. So I was talking about how that this world, as we know it, might not be the way we know it, just because of what we see and have learned throughout our time on earth. Doesn't make us understand what is happening. So we were talking about how the reality of all this was understood, and we picked up one notable understanding of Jacob's 7 ladders, the seven steps into man's growth, into realization of who he is. We talked about how materialism is not a solution of anything. It only seems to complicate things until no one can solve them. So in ancient times, the earth was placed in the center, and around the earth in rings were the orbits of the 7 planets of that time, of which only 5 were actual planets. It began on planet Earth. The ancients will look at that, and the ladder ascended from the surface of the Earth to the extremist of the solar system, which to these people was the planet Saturn. And we assured you that we will go in details as we go on to begin to understand how the planet Saturn is cardinal in the human beliefs, in how man has been believing throughout his stay on earth. You know that above Saturn was a heaven, abode of deity. Mope, you can ask Mamurumbuka to rejoin. I think she thinks we lost the connection. So that's what was going on. Therefore, there were these 7 rings. Okay, you're welcome. Concentric circles ascending in order from the face of the earth through the orbits of the moon, then Mercury, then Venus, then the Sun, then Mars and Jupiter, and finally Saturn. This was I was mentioning in the other recording that it was like a target design, which was hundreds of years completely satisfying the needs of the world, devoted to inward growth rather than to scientific complications. Now, this target we mentioned, device with its various wings, inspired a number of useful discoveries. Apparently, it impelled Pythagoras to discover the octave, we said, a musical interval of 8 tones, or the mystery of musical harmony, as it's called. It permitted him also to discover the principal chords, and by stretching a thread or cord through the face of the earth to the upper end of the orbit of Saturn, he created a cosmic musical instrument. So the design was laid on a human body too, and the conclusion was reached that the 7-fold divisions of Pythagoras was equally applicable to the physical structure of the human being, not only his composition, but his actual physical body. So reality may not be physical, in short. The steps in man's life are like the 7-step ladder, and they advance from the material to the most abstract. They form the rungs of the ladder. The rungs, like one of the cross pieces that form steps of the ladder, over the ladder of growth. So the ladder of unfolding internal potentials. So they would look at it in this way, that the disciple ascended the ladder by becoming the negative attribute of each of the 7 planets. Not all the planets have their own attributes, which we'll talk about in order, according to the ancients. So the disciple ascended the ladder by overcoming the negative attributes of each of the 7 planets. He learned how to use knowledge. Man learned how to use knowledge, which we need to do now. Man must learn how to use knowledge and not abuse it. He learned to understand the difference between love and lust. His heart was also sought to understand the difference between education and knowledge. Strangely, in the same epic, like I was mentioning, Mwape asked me this question, let me say this again. In the same epic of the Muslim book, the guardian of the 7th gate is Christ. You see how these things are coming from the same root cause. Everything works in an orderly manner. We must begin to know that, folks. Humanity must begin to understand that everything works in an orderly manner. The human body is what is called by some as the mysterious cave of 7 parts. The 7 parts of the human body recognized by the ancients also. Every part in the human body works together. So there's order even in the human body. When one thing is not working right, you find yourself in hospital or worse still in the grave. And to get a key to one part opens the mystery of all the parts of the system. When you understand the key to life, and this key, Christ mentions it in the book of John 1:51, and he said unto them, Verily, verily I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven open and angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. You see, we mentioned here, we are saying, hereafter you shall see the scriptures open. And say, the very I say unto you, hereafter you shall see the scriptures open. And the words, and the angels, and the words ascending and descending on the Son of Man. So as I speak, the words ascending, these are angels ascending and descending on me. So we have a lot of things to think about concerning the ascent from the superficial to the essential. We have a lot, folks. So that's why I say we need to begin to support this household. We need to build the actual household where we're going to unleash this wisdom and knowledge. And that's why we need everyone's support. So the descent, which is a mystical experience, as John explains it in Revelation, it's a spiritual experience. The revelation of John is a complete spiritual work. John is picked up and carried through the spheres and comes finally to the gates of the Imperium. We will discuss that as we go on in the book of Revelation. You begin to see the actual meaning of all these things and how we apply them on our lives in the quest to begin to take over the earth, to learn the earth. So there, the upper world is revealed to him. John, when he came to the gate of the Imperium, just like when Muhammad went at the last of his quest, and he found Jesus. When in the Muslim book, the guardian of the 7th gate is Christ. The end result is truth, is knowledge, is knowing truth. So everywhere, 7 days of creation, and all these things tie into something that we are trying to together to find out what kind of the world we live in. So for a long time, it didn't mean so much to us. We were getting along pretty well. The Bible told us that we would live 70 years. Well, when there came time to translate the Old Testament, the high priest Isaiah selected 70 elders to make the translation. So 77 everywhere. And the first translation of the Jewish Bible is called the Septuagint. It's the old Greek version of the Old Testament, said to have been translated from the Hebrew by Jewish scholars at the request of Ptolemy II, or the work of the 70. There were 70 Jewish scholars who translated that book. So every time you look around, you find 70. Everywhere you find 70. You find some reason for it. The key to find out our existence is in this understanding. We know 7 races when you go into the human history. They recognize 7 races and 7 planets. Suppose we assume that an individual has a septuagint of faculties, that he has various levels of insights, that he has various ways of measuring things, and that all these except the visible faculty are invisible. That somewhere there must be an answer. It's not possible to assume religiously that this creation is not a cause, because this creation has a cause, and the cause is its maker, is the supreme being whom we cannot fathom, but we have known him through truth, through one of his attributes called God, grantor of dominion. And it's not possible scientifically that everything that exists is merely an accident. There's no accident in this world. That's why we're seated here trying to make the world understand what is happening. Things don't happen. Things don't just happen because there are too many evidence every day that things happen according to rules. Everything happens according to rules. And today there are many people who have experienced what we cannot call miracles. Sorry, what we commonly call miracles. Many people have experienced what we commonly call miracles simply because they intuitively kept the facts of life straight. When you keep the facts of life straight, you'll be amazed. You will think a miracle has happened to you. Of course, life is a miracle as long as you follow its rules. So many people who have experienced what we commonly call miracles simply because they intuitively kept the facts of life straight. That is the work of man, to follow truth, to keep the facts of life straight. So we have this problem of trying to understand rights of the mysteries, how to penetrate into this structure and see why it answers all questions. If we find out the key to them, you start thinking maybe we need to go into the mountain and it will happen to me also. Now, the key begins with a very simple point. It begins with the earth. It begins with you and me, the key to knowledge. The earth is the foundation upon which the ladder rests, and in man, the physical body is the foundation upon which the ladder of the spinal cord, that column, rests. This physical situation we have is the beginning of all things. We are happy we are in this life because we have been given the chance to be a part of this growth, which is going to bring God in the human mind. So the physical situation we have is the beginning of all things. Being alive now should be a joyous time to man. And we begin to understand there is nothing unimportant on earth. Everything is important. It becomes unimportant because you can't understand it. You don't know it. You can't fathom it. Man is here, like anything in this universe, to grow. I've said this several times. There is a purpose for him. The life of a man is not necessarily a journey of cradle to grave. No. Procreation is not an accident. But what is an accident? An accident, folks, is to be trained to be materialistic. Materialist. If your mind is materialistic, that's an accident. So an accident is to be trained to be materialist, to be a materialist. So we cannot understand the reason for ourselves until we discover the reason for everything. We are all on a cyclic pattern of need. of things where we have to learn and things we have to do. And there is no graduation from this school of life until we do what we ought to do and found out the answers to the things that must be known. We keep on learning even after 38 years. Otherwise, we are always going to fall short of that which is necessary to release us from the painful cycle of necessity. This painful cycle of necessity will be, we are going to relieve ourselves from this by knowing, by understanding. So necessity has only one solution, one remedy, and that is to accomplish that which is necessary. We have to accomplish that which is necessary on earth. We can't run away from that. So we have to begin to think of the lawful universe. The universe we live in is lawful. We begin to understand that. And all the wrong in life will cease. Because the universe is lawful, all the wrongs in this life will cease. Psalm 37:10 says, yet a little while you wake up, look for the wicked, you will not find them. That's why we're saying, let the Western people kill each other. Let the Africans kill each other. They are going to kill themselves off the earth, and the earth will rid themselves of people who do not understand how to live it. So, what we are trying to say is that all of the wrongs in life will cease. But these laws are not the laws we love. That's the problem. We don't love the natural law. We don't love God. We love things which scratch our itching ears. There are no solutions to our needs, so to speak. That's what man would say. Psalms 143:10 says, Psalm 143:10, teach me to do thy will, for thou art my God. Thy spirit is good. Lead me into the land of uprightness. Luke 22:42, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me, because sometimes life is unpleasant for us. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine will be done. If we can reach that level of saying, not my will, like I mentioned now, I was saying that we have to begin to think of the law of the universe. The problem is, the laws are not the laws we love. They are not solution to our needs. So here Christ was saying, it was painful for him. He says, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. But he realized it's not about him. The universe is not about how you feel. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. So out of suffering comes a yearning for peace. If you have a problem on a level, you must cure it by going to one level above it. So you must outgrow something to escape the consequences of your own mistakes. So if you want to come out of problems, you go one level above. You outgrow the problem. You cannot simply ask the government to pass another rule to supply more food, for example, for the homeless. This is all very important physically, but it's still physical and it will never solve the soul problem. There will always be hunger until we find the cause of it and not merely try to feed the hungry. That's what I'm trying to talk about. We have to know that our dilemma rises from our own abuses. Whatever has happened to us is because of our own abuse. Corona, HIV, pandemics, wars, our own dilemma arises from our own abuses. And evil goes uncorrected generation from generation. Then when it erupts, we have a problem. So we know how to create problems, but do not know how to solve them. Human beings know how to create problems. You go and sleep with someone's wife. You know how to create those, but you don't know how to correct them. We destroy the earth. We abuse the earth, but we don't know how to fix it. So we know how to create problems, but do not know how to solve them. Solutions cannot be found by increasing a police force or recruiting more firemen. These things are necessary, but these things have to be outgrown in favor of more permanent solutions. So the spheres in the book of Revelation are symbols. When we go to talk about the book of Revelation, they are keys representing in the spheres of redemption and not to be taken physically and literally, because the Bible is not a historical book. You cannot make a physical literal, sorry. You cannot make a physical literalism out of a spiritual fact. They have to be understood intuitively, spiritually. They are symbols to be interpreted, not patterns to be copied. The Bible is a symbol. Sorry. The Bible is a symbol to be interpreted, not a pattern to be followed. No individual will ever be allowed to function in invariant with the rules. You cannot function invariant with the rules. Remember, the lowest rung of the ladder was just say some water and chalk. So when the ancients were talking about the seven planets and their meaning, they will begin from the lowest part, which represented the earth. Then they will begin to understand how man would grow. So the lowest rung of the ladder was represented by the moon. Remember the moon I showed you last Sunday, the Jews worshipped it. El, the man of the mountain. So the lowest rung of the ladder was represented by the moon, which represented purification. All things must become clean, in short. Things must be clean, clean inward, clean morally. No one can get to the next step until he passes the first one. Life is rungs of ladder, 7 rungs of ladder. You don't progress to the other step if you have not passed the first step. Clean inwardly, clean morally. You must bring your physical, your material physical life into order. Every one of us must begin to do that. You bring your material physical life into order. It was a process of bringing light into harmony with the natural law. It was to make the world into a natural garden where everything lives in peace. To fight yourself into a control is no good unless inwardly your consciousness supports that control. You become a gardener, not a tyrant. Mm-hmm.
For the Zoom session, we're meeting with 10 minutes. For the Zoom session, the second session is
All right. All right. So Zoom folks, when you're cut off, please come to Facebook. We just conclude. So there's no way of getting away except by correcting a fault. In life, you can't get away with anything. Everything which befalls you, or every mistake you make, you need to correct. There's no way of getting away except by correcting a fault in this life. We have to try to use things and not abuse them. Man, to understand, he must begin to learn. That's why we need to come in this classroom every day. For us to understand, we need to learn. So the next rung of the ladder was Mercury, and Mercury was communication. Mercury is also intelligence. Mercury is not philosophy. Mercury is the kind of intelligence that we get from a public school. That's, you see. And Mercury is a training of the mind for the purpose of adjustment of certain circumstances and conditions. That is education. Education from school only equips us. Is the training of the mind for the purpose of adjustment of certain circumstances and conditions. That is education. Education must lead us to idealism, not materialism. Education must make us citizens of all life, not the education Adam has given us. This education must make us citizens of all life, potential citizens of the whole universe. That's why this message is to the whole universe. Then the third rung of the ladder, they would understand it using the planet Venus. Venus was to them was emotional maturity. Man must reach a level of emotional maturity. It governs affection. It governs beauty. The great keynote is sincerity. The great keynote is sincerity. All feeling must be sincere. The way you and I have this, the relationship we have on this household must be sincere. Let's not lie to one another. Things must be as they should be. Then the next round was the sun. The ancients thought the sun to be a planet which is not. We see they believed the planet, the sun was the planet, but of course that's not true. The sun was a life giver for them, as attributed to the book of Malachi 4:2. But unto you that fear my name shall the S-U-N, Son of Righteousness, arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as calves of the store. Then the next was mass. Mass is competition. You know, remember, mass was a symbol of war. One of the distracting factor in things, wars. But this would mean, sometimes it meant for them domination in little things, courage, sacrifice for a common good. Like a father's sacrifice for a child to grow up to be a better person. Struggle. Until we know that understanding is superior to completion, there will be no peace on earth. We need to understand, but not compete. The next one was Jupiter. Jupiter is a straight kind of majority. It's a worldly wise, and it knows all there is in the world, but cannot solve the mystery of self. Jupiter, therefore, is a kind of wisdom in which worldly wisdom has been blended with divine wisdom. They would use that, but of course, I'm trying to show you what the ancients thought. Then, as we go, we begin to understand how they wrote their scriptures. And if this blend is proper and complete, Jupiter becomes a symbol of the light of knowing. It points out that in this world there will be some kind of leadership. In this world there will be and that at no time will everyone be exactly the same. There will be one who will be like leading people into truth. So there was the S-U-N of man. No matter how much power it has, this ram will never abuse that power in any way. So this S-U-N, they believed he is going to have power. Remember, knowledge is power. He is going to have knowledge, but he will never abuse that knowledge in any way. He will never fail to face, look at the good and lead. So no good leader can be an atheist. If you are the S-U-N of God, you can never be an atheist. He must be a person who understands truth. Leadership is a privilege of service. Then they'll look at Saturn. I told you they looked at this ladder in the order of the 7 planets, they believed. Of course, 5 of them were blue planets, 2 were not, because they believed the sun was the planet, which it is not. So then comes the last Saturn, the legend of the father that devoured his sons. Saturn is a symbol of a very deep composure. I'm saying this, they look very light, but I'm going to show you how now religion comes out of this as we go on. Saturn is the final statement of a maturity blending inside spiritual enlightenment with material adjustment. Saturn is a symbol of bestower of the long life. It represents a truly wise person, a person who has lived a life and now is able to teach others. So all elevation is for the teaching of those who must obey the law. They knew that in life we needed to obey the law. All greatness is service. That's what the earth wants. If you want to be great, you're going to serve. The Bible says the greater is he who serves. So all greatness is service. So this individual comes into the presence of the great one. As Revelation points out, we come into the presence of the great figure walking among the candlesticks, guarding the stars, coming face to face with the truth. He becomes one who knows, and know that he knows he must give and share knowledge. And that's what I do. we share knowledge. The Bible is talking about that one. And Revelation 1:12 says, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. 13, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. You see, the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and get up about the gaps with a golden girdle. 14, his head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto the fine brass, and as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters.
Sorry, sir.
Mm-hmm.
For Zoom session, we might be cut off, meaning we'll just have to log into Facebook if we're cut off.
All right.
Looking at the time. Yes.
Yeah, all right. 16, and he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp, 2-edged spoken word, sword, and his countenance was as the sun within, as the sun shineth in his strength. 17, and when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he said, and he laid his right hand upon me, and saying unto me, fear not, I am the first and the last. There is only one reality in each of us, and that is divine power. That is following truth. That is reality. Everything you aspire is illusion, is devilish. So we cannot get war out of the world unless we do something to change the physical world. We have to be taught the laws of life. We cannot keep on breaking the rules and think we'll live a good life. It's not going to happen. That's why we need to understand all this. Mwape is telling me that Zoom might go. Maybe before Zoom goes, let's do a recap. And I think time is running fast. We might just close up and continue next week. All Zoom is gone. I hope someone can come from Zoom to Facebook to give us a recap. So I will ask Mam Lumbuka or Mwape to join us on Facebook to give us a recap. Otherwise, I wanted to talk to you. I know the preceding weeks we've been studying truth, but we needed to understand what is around us, how man has thought throughout the years, and how we ended up with what we call truth in the Bible and all the scriptures, for us to begin to understand what we're trying to say. So, Mwape, if you can join, I want someone to summarize now. Or is Mamumbuka on? All right. Oh, excellent. So she's joining us. So, Mamumbuka, I want you to summarize. Please join us. I know I've made you co-host with Mwape. Any one of you can come up. I know we have talked about a lot of things. Okay, let me add Mwape back. Okay. Mwape, there you are. We know you're working, but you can give us a little bit of time.
Yes, sir. Am I audible enough? Okay. I think there are so many points that I came to appreciate, and I'll just try to run through the few points that I actually appreciated from today's teaching. And the first one has to do with the aspect of materialism. We do understand that in the world that we're living in as much as we live in a physical universe and also in a material world, it's very, very normal for a person to pursue material things. But from today's teaching, you've emphasized the aspect to say that materialism is not the solution to man's problem, because the pursuit of materialism leaves us devoid of that which we cannot see. And you said reality may not always be physical. So having to pursue material things sometimes is not the solution to the problems that we have, because you've emphasized to say that reality is not just about the physical things, but it's that also which we do not see physically. And also, you also mentioned an aspect to say that just because one does not understand something does not mean that that thing is useless. There is a value in something. Even procreation is not an accident, as you mentioned. So just because one person does not understand their reason of existence does not mean life has no purpose. And also, other than that, you also mentioned on an aspect of saying, as humans, it's very easy for us to destroy than it is to build up something. You mentioned of an aspect of saying, like the way we are destroying the planet Earth, where it's very much easier for us to abuse the Earth, but it's been so much difficult for us to actually build it. And we've seen this is evident in the way our planet is deteriorating in terms of climate change and so on. Meaning the rate at which we've destroyed our own planet has been more rampant than it has been when it comes to rebuilding it. And then you also mentioned of something to say that evil happens to happen when one abuses the natural laws. So, and this has been evident in the way things happen to work out in nature, that whenever a natural law has been broken, then something negative has to happen. And this is evident also on the aspect that you mentioned to say that God is inseparable from the natural laws. So you cannot separate the natural laws from God. So in the moment you disobey the natural laws, it means you disobey the Creator Himself. So I think amongst the many things, I think these are some of the things that I actually came to appreciate. And the other thing that I actually really loved was the aspect that you mentioned, the guardian of the seventh gate, who is Christ, and in reference to that was knowledge that you mentioned. So I think in a nutshell, this is what I've appreciated in today's lesson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. This is very good summary. I appreciate it. This is very good. It will help others who are listening too. That's why we always ask you guys to summarize, because it's easier for people to listen to the fellow listeners. Sometimes I might go my own way and go in deep words, but I think I'm trying, because I can tell that you brothers are summarizing so well. Yeah. So, do we have Ezra or Chungu around? I would like.
No.
No, we don't. All right.
No, unfortunately, we only have Mamlumbuka, and but I think she has dropped. She was online, but she has dropped. So I think, but I can see there are 3 people.
Okay, I think she's there. I've seen her. I'm adding her back. She dropped from being a host. Mamlumbuka, are you there? Can you join us in summarizing? I think she's having a hard time with her network today. The 3 are the 3 you can see that side are the hosts. I'm the only one who can view the people who are watching from here.
Okay. So I think we have Mamlumbuka. She's back online.
Okay. Mamlumbuka,
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've had quite a challenge today with my
connectivity.
Yeah, it's been terrible. But I think I can probably just talk about a few points that I was able to pick during the times I was connected, and I couldn't pick some points when I was off. So I think in the earlier part of the session, you spoke about how when prophecy in the Bible is proclaimed, you find that its manifestation is seen in every dispensation. So, and you mentioned that the imaging righteous man will make war using truth and knowledge, because in every dispensation the truth comes. And so the goal is to replace the physical mind with the Christ mind. So the word has to replace, the word in this case will replace the devilish mind, which is the deviser of illusion that has resided in man for 6,000 years. And you also, I think in the earlier parts of the session, you mentioned that the mind is an accumulation of impressions over the 6,000 years, as the body is an accumulation of foods. So basically the mind is an accumulation of impressions. And also you talked about that our thoughts, our emotions, they happen from the limited. There's some background noise, maybe. Is it from my end? Okay.
Is it possible for you to mute me, Rev?
Mute you?
Yes.
From this
I
end?
think you may have.
Yes, is it possible? Okay. Okay, if not possible, then I'll just have to participate without me being part of the hosts.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So you also mentioned that our thoughts and emotions happen from the data that we've gathered, and not necessarily, they are not us. Whatever we gather, we can claim that it's mine, and that doesn't define who we are. Then I think at some point now you brought about the story of Jacob's ladder in Genesis 28 verse 12. I think I kept being cut off, but you mentioned that the top of it reached heaven, and this is a representation of the knowledge, the truth. And the angels are the words. The angels were ascending and descending. So because the Bible says they're spirits, the spirit are words, hence the angels were words. And I think you also mentioned that we in terms of scientific facts, if we look at scientific facts, the physical problems, science says the physical problems are real, everything else is not. But the reality is that what becomes more evident according to scripture is that the physical things are a manifestation of things we cannot see. And according to Paul, I think in Colossians 1:16, where the Bible speaks about things that the things which are seen were not made by things which are seen, meaning there's some invisible reality that exists, and hence that's why the Bible in Romans talks about the physical things are temporal, while those that are not seen are eternal. Hence the physical universe, you mentioned that is just part of the creation. The rest that exists beyond our sensory ability. The rest exists beyond our sensory ability, and it exists. Just like we cannot fathom God, whatever is beyond our sensory ability, we cannot fathom. And hence, in the ancient world, there was a law of analogy, which says that if things agree in some respects, I think I didn't get the full, but where you mentioned that man is a miniature universe, and so there was an understanding of trying to look at man in order to understand the universe and the law of the universe. And hence, you brought about the number 7, which is an addition of 6 plus 1, 6 days of creation plus 1, and 6 is a number of man, and 1 is the number of truth. And so this becomes complete when, the number 7 is the number of completion. Hence, on the 7th day, you mentioned that when the creation happened in 7 days, and on the 7th day, God rested. And so currently in the 6,000 years, for us to get to what the intention that God had for man, the complete man, the righteous mind, the truth, which is the number 1, which is a mystery, that we need to embrace in order to be complete. Then also, I think you mentioned that the human body, being a miniature universe, needs to be understood in order to understand deeper things. We cannot solve anything minus understanding this, and hence Christ said the kingdom of God is anew. So Christ said the kingdom of God is anew, and so you also mentioned that this shows also that man has a purpose. So currently, as things are, man has lost his purpose because of embracing materialism, which is not a solution to everything. It cannot solve everything. The flesh is simply just a bidding of the mind. It is not to be killed. If man has to fight a spiritual war, which is the fight of the mind, basically. Yeah. So I think at this point you now began to explain to us that the Jews used what do you call this? They used the concept of the planets in order to explain deity. Yeah. So you mentioned that the planet Saturn was quite a significant planet in order to understand, in order to explain deity. And so I think at this point, that is where you took us to the steps, which represents the planets: Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So I missed the first one, but on Mercury, which was number 2, it was a symbol of communication, intelligence, training of the mind in certain circumstances. It was a symbol of education, which leads us to idealism and not materialism. Then Venus was a symbol of emotional maturity, sincerity, also all feelings must be sincere. And then, of course, the Sun was life-giving, according to Malachi 4. The SUN of righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings to those that fear my name. And then Mars was a symbol of competition, war, but also dominion, courage, and sacrifice for the common good. And Jupiter was the symbol of worldly wisdom. Yeah. And then Saturn, in this case, was a symbol of deep composure, which is the final stage of maturity, where we produce a truly wise person, and that all greatness is service. Yeah. So I think here you also, I think you ended with a point in Revelations 1 verse 12, where you mentioned that there's only one reality in each of us, that is following God, which is following the truth. And for us to be taught the truth, we have to understand that the laws of life basically stem from understanding the truth. And I think that just before that, there's a point that you mentioned, that what man terms as miracles is intuitively means keeping the facts of life and the laws of life. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think that's what I got.
Thank you so very much, Lumbuka. Lumbuka Mwape, you've done a very good job. Thanks. This is very elaborative, and I'm sure people are going to understand clearly what we discussed here today. And these are being recorded, like we always say, on Facebook and on YouTube. You're free to join this class every Sunday, 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Please come, share to your friends. It's a good platform where we are learning truth, learning to actualize man, to bring man to his intended self. This was awesome. Thanks, Mwape. Thanks, Lumbuka. And please, like we always say, come and be a part of this class and support this class, because these truths are so immense, they are bigger than any one of us. And we need for man we want to make sure, we will make sure God, Christ is alive in every human being. Truth has been rest in every human being's mind. So see you next Sunday. Please come, share with your friends. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye.